All right, so this week we've got Southern. The game will be broadcast on ESPN Plus. Len Rollins and Butch Alconder will have the call. Today we have got running back Jaquise Dancy coming off a career night against South Alabama, and then we've got Daniel Lewis on the defensive side of the ball, and we are going to start with Jaquise.
All right. Hello. Okay. Jaquise, obviously everybody knows your story and what you've battled back to. What did it feel for you? I know this has been a long time coming to have a game like you did on Saturday night.
I mean, it really just it felt like, it just felt like I was back in my back to doing what I was doing, back with my brothers, just out fighting with them like we in the mine. I mean, it just felt amazing.
Offensively, after you guys had a chance to watch the tape, where do you think you guys need to improve the most?
We got to improve on finishing drives. I mean, we came out pretty strong, but we just got to keep fighting like we did coming out and just keep pushing.
What was what did you see in it? What did you see in South Alabama's defense on Saturday? How decent were they?
South Alabama defense, I mean, they was what we thought they was. They were very physical. I mean, they had a lot of attention to detail. They played fast. They flew around. And, I mean, they're a hard-nosed football team.
Jaquise, you've obviously played behind a couple of thousand-yard rushers. Do you just feel like you're cut from the same cloth as those guys? Do you feel like, after you've sort of played under them, you sort of picked up a couple things here and there along the way, and you feel like you might be able to sort of repeat that performance?
I mean, playing behind, really since my freshman year, playing behind Kenneth Dixon, I know he taught me a lot coming in, then Jared Kraft the next year, then Boston Scott. I mean, there was a lot of good running backs, and they taught me a bunch of different things from, like, different types of runners. And then, like, they showed me how to, like, be patient and just trust the process. And, I mean, along the road, I can say that I've gained a lot from them, and I'm pretty sure I could just from, like, being a part of what they was a part of and listening to them and trusting what they're telling me. I mean, I think I got what it takes.
To me, it looks like your first step is almost like your full speed. You haven't done a year.
I mean, I don't know. I just be out there. I mean, I trust what the linemen are giving me, so I just try to be patient as long as I can, and then when I just take off, it's just there. Yeah, the hardest thing to me is being patient, because like once I see the hole or I know where I'm going, I just want to take off.
Any more questions? Dave, we're using the microphone again. That means if you have a question, raise your hand.
Jaquise, I believe it was from Rashid. I saw a tweet from him. I believe it was Sunday morning. He had said that what was crazy about your performance on Saturday night is that you had told him before you guys even took the field that night that you felt that you were going to have that type of game. Mm-hmm. What was it about leading up to the weekend where you felt like you were in a good spot to have a pretty good football game?
I mean, since fall camp really first started, I can tell that our linemen have been doing really well, and all of the running backs have been trusting them like to a different level of where it's been since I've been here, honestly. And I mean, that's mostly it. Like the linemen up front, including O'Shea Dugas, Ethan Reed, Cody Russi, Michael Rodriguez. I mean, we're like the trust and the bond we got now with the linemen is, I mean, it's unreal. And I mean, I just knew from the beginning that the running backs was gonna have a good game.
Hey, after a couple of years of having, I guess, a group of linemen who weren't necessarily healthy, how does it feel to finally have a group of linemen who are healthy in 2018?
May you repeat that?
I was saying for a couple of years, the linemen have been, been injured the past couple of years, but to finally have a healthy group of linemen to help you out that much on Saturday, how does it feel?
It feels amazing, like having all the guys up front healthy, all the well, really just the trust and the bond that they have with each other from like playing with each other for so long. I mean, it's great for this team, honestly, and I mean, it's just a blessing, really.
Daniel, how difficult was preparing for the game on Saturday with the new coaching staff? You didn't know what quarterback they were going to have out there. Obviously, you guys thrived against the pass. A couple struggles against the run, but just talk about how difficult it is to game plan for a team that you don't know a whole lot about.
It was pretty difficult not knowing, what exactly tape to watch. We kind of split it up between UCA and Troy, trying to get a feel of the similarities between the two coaching staffs and try to see if they'd have some crossovers between the previous coaching staff at South Alabama and see if maybe they might want to catch up and do the same things. But overall, I think that the coaches did a pretty good job at giving us a pretty good idea of the possibilities of the looks that we might get. It was just about, more so execution on the defense part, the guys on the field.
Early on, especially in the second half, it seemed like they went to a lot of that option look. The frequency that they ran the option, did that catch y'all off guard by a little bit maybe?
Definitely. Coming in, we knew that they had some struggles with their O-line. They didn't have as many guys back as they probably would like to have back. So we kind of figured they would probably rely a lot more on quick game and, a lot of max protection with deep passes. We've seen that a lot from Troy and from South Alabama in previous years, so we were expecting a lot more of that in the past. But I'd say from the great plays that Darryl made early on with the interception by Meek, I think that probably discouraged them a lot, and they probably relied a lot more on their running. And credit to their O-line, credit to their coaches. They did a pretty good job with mixing things up with the different types of looks that we got from the triple option.
Daniel, it was your first game in a Louisiana Tech uniform. Just, assess that moment of getting out there and finally playing a football game with this team, and how did you think you did yourself?
It was great. Coming out in the tunnel the first time when we went to do the stretches, a lot of GAs. I remember Armani coming up to me and saying, "Man, you look real good in that blue and white." And I was like, "I feel good." And just the energy that the guys have coming out on the field, the confidence that we had in one another, it felt great. Just finally being out there, my brothers, all my brothers, defensively, special teams, and offense, just ready to go to war with each other. It really felt great.
This is working. All right, Daniel, I got a two-part question.
Okay.
And I hope I'm right on the pronunciation. Morbihan, Louisiana, is that correct?
Morbihan, Louisiana.
Oh, Morbihan. Okay, where is that exactly?
Okay.
I can't find it on the map.
All right, so if you're heading west on 90, you would take Darnell Road exit. After you take Darnell Road exit, you pass up the first four-way stop. After that, there'll be another four-way, and then there'll be a roundabout. After that roundabout, you're going to see a sign. It's going to say Moberhan, Louisiana. It's going to say Moberhan.
What's it close to over there? What's maybe the biggest town close to?
Laurelville. It's pretty close to Laurelville, where Rashid.
How far is it from New Iberia?
Technically, it's kind of part of New Iberia, but it's outside of the city limits. So it kind of gives us like our own little town type ordeal.
How did you get from South Louisiana to Hawaii and then to Louisiana Tech?
It was a journey. University of Hawaii was my first offer coming out of high school. I committed to them pretty early on in the recruiting process. And then coaches stayed with me, so I stayed with them. Ended up going out there, getting my degree, playing 4 years there. And then wanted to get back home and be close to family, and just wanted to give them the opportunity as best as I could to make sure they could see me play for my final senior year. So coming back after I got my release from Coach Rolovich in Hawaii, guys like Michael Sam, who I played with in high school at New Iberia Senior High, Rashid, he was probably the biggest advocate. Once he found out that I got my transfer paper, he was really pushing on me like, hey, we got guys in the league. We doing real good jobs over here. We just run 4 bowl games in a row. Like, man, come over here, play with us at Louisiana Tech. So I started talking to Coach Baker more and more, and then once it got closer to graduation date, it was kind of solidified at that point.
Hey, how tense was it as a defense overall, trying to protect that little lead you guys had in the fourth quarter, before Jamar went in that final drive of the ball game?
Oh, I mean, I remember while they were on the field for that final drive, I remember just talking to Meek, talking to Ferg, talking to Big Country, saying like, hey, no matter what goes on this drive, no matter if we get points or not, if it's a turnover, if we punt it, if it's field goal, no matter what goes on in this drive, we got to go out there and not give them anything, because I thought it was important that that late in the game and that close. I think before they scored, it was 20-3, I want to say. So field goal would have put them in position to go to overtime and win. Touchdown definitely would have given them the lead, obviously. So I thought it was really important to talk to the guys and let them know, like, hey, we need to go out there, bow our necks, and not give up anything on this drive.
A lot of things can happen in the first game of the season, but I guess how much confidence does it give you guys as a defense moving forward here to get a win on the road? One of 12 teams.
I thought it was a huge deal. Coach Skip, Coach Holtz, he emphasized 50% of the teams of college football teams lost on that day, on that opening day, and he said with a big smile on his face, it wasn't us. We weren't one of them. So that's a great thing. It's hard to win. It's even harder to win on the road. So that's a great confidence booster for us. But moving forward, I just think that we need to focus on the little things, technique issues. Defensively, I thought we did a pretty good job as far as, playing hard, giving good effort, playing tough. One thing that I definitely know that we need to work on is tackling. We gave up almost half of the yards that they got on us came after tackling, so we pretty much gave them half of the yards. So I just think that after focusing in on little things, our fundamentals and tackling and all those things, I think that we'll come out and be a much better defense this upcoming week.
Daniel, I know it's early in the preparation process, getting ready for Southern this weekend, but they are going to play all 3 of their quarterbacks. Just talk a little bit about the challenges of having to face. I'm not even sure if you've ever even encountered that before in your football career, facing a team that's going to play 3 different quarterbacks. So what do you think some of those challenges might be?
Probably getting as much film study as possible spread out against all 3 of them. I'm not sure how much film we'll have on all 3, but I know 2 of them will have a pretty good amount on. But if they're planning to play all 3, you have to prepare for all 3 and just go in the game ready to play against whoever they put in front of us pretty much. Thank you.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome. For week 1, like I said before, it's always great to win. I mean, ultimately,
what you're trying to do week one, you're trying to learn a lot about your football team when you go out there. You're going to learn about some guys that haven't played, trying to see what the leadership roles are going to be like, how you're going to handle adversity, etc. But while you're doing all that, you really want to find a way to win a game. And so really proud of this team, what they were able to do. A lot has been written and said about being one of only 12 teams in the country that went on the road and got a win for the opening game of the year. Really proud of what they were able to do. I commend South Alabama. I think Coach Campbell has done a great job with that team. We knew it would be a battle. Even a year ago, it was 17-16 going into the fourth quarter. Right here, when we ended up scoring 17 points in the fourth quarter to win the game, but you knew they weren't going to go away softly. They were going to compete. They've got some really good athletes on their football team, and we knew it would be a heck of a battle. I think going into it, I was excited about the win, but was not very excited about the way that we played. There were a lot of positives. There were a lot of bright spots. There were some guys that played really well, but I felt like we had some opportunities in the second quarter to put the game away offensively. But we sputtered ourselves as well as our defense played in the first half. I thought our offense really sputtered in the second and third quarters. And I say sputtered, we had turnovers, we went 3 and out, we had sacks, we had penalties. We did things to shoot ourselves in the foot that good football teams don't do. And then in the fourth quarter, it seemed like defensively we didn't play with the same intensity and focus that we played the first 3 quarters with. And then that was when I felt like the offense got on track. That was when the offense said, look, here's what we need to do. They went 12 plays or 85 yards in 12 plays, whatever that was, 75 yards in 12 plays, went down the field, scored a touchdown. And I thought kind of at the beginning of the game and the end of the game, really the offense looked pretty good, but I wasn't very pleased with the second and third quarters. Defensively, I thought we played really well for 3 quarters. And the kicking game, I thought from beginning to end was a train wreck. Certainly not what we were looking for. I don't think we punted the ball very successfully. You can look at your stats and say we had a 62-yard punt, but it went 35 yards in the air. We had a 20-yard punt to go along with it. I mean, I don't think we punted the ball very well. Field goal-wise, kicking-wise, we missed an extra point. Kickoff-wise, we kicked the ball to about the 5. Our pooch punts were inside the hashes rather than out by the numbers. We weren't very sharp. We got a lot of cleaning up to do. I think if you could write a script, you would want to find a way to win the first game, but not play very well. And so I think we really have the perfect script for this football team to enjoy a 1-0 start, but yet at the same time, there's plenty for us to come in here and coach really hard on what we got to get done moving forward. Coming into this week's game, you never know really how some of these guys are going to play, but was really pleased with the offensive line, talking about them individually. I thought O'Shea Dugas, Michael Rodriguez, Cody Russi, and even Ethan Reed did a really nice job up front, opened some huge holes. The running backs, everybody was worried about how we're going to replace Boston Scott and Jared Kraft, and then Stubbs, Israel Tucker, and Jaquise Dancy, who I think have an opportunity to be a tremendous 1-2 punch combination. Jaquise rushing for 140 yards until he went out with his cramps, and then I thought Izzy did a nice job of taking over there in the second half. A lot of receivers caught balls in this game. It was not a game where anybody was going to be featured. We weren't real sure what we were going to get or what we were attacking. So we just went out there and kind of it was read the defense and take what they give you. And I thought that some guys really stepped up. Bonnet had 4 catches. I think Alfred Smith had 3. Alfred Smith had 2. Teddy Veal had 3. Adrian Hardy had 3. We had a lot of things, about 9 different guys caught passes from Jamar. So I thought the receivers played okay. We had a couple drops, but they played okay. Jamar, I think, did some good things, but the 3 interceptions are the glare. He threw 6 last year. He threw 3 in one game, the opening game this year. I felt like one of them was definitely on him. The other 2, I think we could have helped him at receiver. I don't think we ran very good routes to put him in a bad situation. But Jamar's got to do a better job with ball security, not just in throwing it, but even in running it. He had a fumble one time when he got pressure. He had a face mask and was tackled. The ball was on the ground. He was ruled down, but we got to do a better job of protecting the football, much better. And then on defense, where I felt like we played three really good quarters, three really solid quarters. James Jackson, who was a conference player of the week, did a great job for us, forced 2 fumbles, had a fumble recovery, very active. Jordan Bradford, a nose guard, had 9 tackles. Not very often you've got a nose guard that has nine stops in a contest. Davon Washington continued his productivity with 10 tackles and being our leading tackler on the day. I just felt like some guys played really well. Jalen Ferguson played really well. Willie Baker played really well. I think some of those guys are really growing as a defensive front. Colin Scott got his first start. I thought he had a nice day for us at linebacker. And then in the secondary, I thought Daniel Lewis and Jordan Bradford played really well. Daniel being the 5th-year senior grad transfer and Jordan Bradford being a 4th year. Those 2 guys are kind of splitting time and really doing a great job replacing the productivity that Cedric Cooper gave us. And I think both those guys are playing really well right now as well. And then L'Jarius Sneed, and I think Amik made one of the most athletic interceptions I saw on the weekend with what he did on the interception on the deep ball. A lot of good individual performances in this game, but I think the ultimate deal is, you know what, it was a win. We need to put it to bed. We need to start looking at what we're doing going forward. And right now the biggest focus is on us. We play Southern this weekend, excited to play the an in-state team. I think these are healthy games for the state of Louisiana. A lot of our players played against a lot of these guys. They know each other. They played with each other. They played against each other in high school. I think Coach Odoms has done a great job with their program. They were 7-4 a year ago, lost at the very end, of the year to lose the championship. I think they're a very good football team. They've got an awful lot of talent, and I think right now we've got to correct some of the mistakes that we made. I know their quarterback got hurt last week at TCU, but is expected to return from what I understand. Huge up front, three guys over 330 pounds on their offensive line. They're big, they're 6'5", they're 6'7", they're 330. They've got a very athletic quarterback that can run around, and they've got some skill players that obviously have a lot of talent. And the same thing defensively when you look at them, very productive secondary with their skill set in the secondary. They don't give up a lot of big plays in the passing game. They've been a little bit more susceptible in the running game to big plays than they have the passing game. And so we've got a lot of things that we got to correct in this game, and we know it's going to be a great challenge, and we're looking forward to having the opportunity to play our first game at home. With it being the first game at home, it's also a weekend of the 50th anniversary of Joe I Stadium, which is an exciting time to be part of this. Not every team has a chance to be part of an anniversary year, and this is a 50-year anniversary of Joe I Stadium. They have selected the 50 best players that have played in this stadium to honor those players. We're going to get an opportunity to spend a little time with them on Saturday morning. They're going to take the Bulldog Walk with us at 3:45. We're going to come in here and do a team meeting with our football team and the 50 players that are being acknowledged to have a meeting in here before the game. I mean, I think there's just a lot of cool things that are going on this weekend with Southern coming to town with their band as well as Southern Travels. I look for a great venue and a great kind of setting for the opening game and the first game of the season here at Joe I Stadium. So excited to be back home this weekend. What questions could I answer for anybody?
Skip, across the country, this tends to be week one overreaction, positive or negative. I know every team is different, takes on a life of their own, but typically, how long does it take for a squad like yours to find their identity and their personality?
I think that can vary between every team. I think it can vary between your experience, how ready they are to start stepping in. I would imagine with the experience we have, we should probably get a pretty good identity by the time we get to conference. You know, when you get through 4 or 5 games in, that's why most people play their 4 non-conference games first, so they can get in those games and get into an identity, and you get into a rhythm, you get into the schedule, and then you start getting into conference play, because ultimately that's what we're all competing for, and that's what the non-conference games are there for, is the opportunity to go out, maybe make some mistakes, and if you can find a way to make some mistakes and get a win, then hopefully if we can continue to grow from it, we can be pretty good. But a year ago, it was a lot longer than that because of all the injuries. And I kept talking about the injuries are stunning our growth. It's slowing down what we can become. It's hard to tell what we are because we're never the same team 2 weeks in a row. So I think it can all be, every year can be different. That's why I talk about every football team as a life expectancy of 1 year. But hopefully, normally, traditionally, in the 30 years I've been coaching, it's normally by about the time you get into your conference run, about the third, fourth, fifth game of the year, you start to get a pretty good identity of who you are.
Meek and Snead and the two safeties obviously did a very good job at basically shutting down their passing game as a whole. How much of a surprise was it to see them go to basically a triple option offense in the second half?
Not at all. I mean, really, I said not at all. We talked about all the different things we could get. We could get the quarterback run game, which we got. We could get the spread offense, which we got. We could get the motion and the option, it's like they were going to try what they were doing. And as well as our defense was playing, they were going to keep trying things until they found something that worked. And we got into the option game and option football. If we were preparing for that game today, we would have spent a lot more time on the option football than we did. We probably spent 5-10 minutes a day for about a week and a half on option football. But knowing that somebody got out of their gap, somebody didn't take their responsibility, and the quarterback goes 60 yards and there was nobody there to make a miss, those are things that we got to get. Those are things we got to get straight. But doesn't surprise me. It is assignment football, and it's one of the things I talked about. I thought we played disciplined, hard-nosed football because they tried some of that in the first half, and it wasn't very successful. But in the second half, when we came back out, we had a guy not carry the motion. All of a sudden, we don't have enough guys over there. There's nobody on the pitch. Then there was nobody on the dive. Then there was nobody on the quarterback. And I don't think we played very disciplined in the second half. So not surprised they went to it because that's where they found success, but very excited with the way our defense held up with a lot of the other things that we saw.
For Jamar, I know you said 2 of the 3 interceptions weren't necessarily his fault, but you mentioned the fumbles and a couple of the mistakes Jamar made. Is it fair to call it a regression to where was some of the mistakes from last year? Or
no, it's a first game. I mean, we haven't played in 8 months. It's a first game. It's a starting point. You really can't say you went backwards because you don't have a starting point for 18. I think, his ball security, even running with how loose he was with the ball, those are the things that we haven't played in 8 months. Naturally, he's not real tight with the ball, and those are things that we got to harp on and do a better job of coaching. I certainly wouldn't say it was regression. I thought, he was 19 to 29. I don't know what that is exactly percentage-wise, but a whole lot better than he did a year ago. And he had a couple drops that were in there. So we had 2 drops. All of a sudden, he's 21 to 29. He threw a number of balls. He was hit 13 times in that game, which is unfair to him. So I would say that when you look at everything, we got to get better with our protection. We got to get better with our ball security at quarterback. But I can't say right now we step backwards because we haven't played in 8 months, and this football team, opening games are starting points more than they are carryovers from the year before with a lot of new players. I don't have to repeat. I like it. I like the microphone.
Coach, you've obviously seen and coached and have been around a few 1,000-yard rushers. Do you feel like Jaquise, after you've seen him for the last couple of years, is he cut from that same cloth, you think?
I think he could have multiple 1,000 yards. I think Jaquise, the whole key with Jaquise is, can Jaquise stay healthy? Jaquise has got, he's got size at about 195 pounds, almost a 200-pound running back. He's very good out of the backfield. He can catch the ball. But I think one of the things, his elusiveness and his speed is a pretty special combination. He has been a guy that for 3 years we have tried to keep working in. And obviously he's a huge story with what he did to beat non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, cancer, and to be where he is and to be, worrying about 1,000 yards. A couple of years ago, we were worried if he would see Christmas, and now we're talking about him being a 1,000-yard rusher. So I think he's a tremendous talent, but I think it's a matter of if he stays healthy for the season, I feel very comfortable that he can be a 1,000-yard rusher easily with his talent level.
With kind of what you mentioned about Southern being a little more maybe susceptible to the run game, do you expect another big game out of him?
As long as he's healthy, I expect a big game out of him every week. I think him and Izzy have really impressed me through camp. They've not only impressed me in the game Saturday, but Israel Tucker has had just a solid camp. I mean, here's a guy that broke his hand. He's playing with a cast on his hand, on his right hand, has never missed a play, has never said boo, broke his hand. 2 days later, went to the trainer and said, my hand hurts. They x-rayed it, told him he'd miss a while, and he said, no, just put a cast on it and I'll play. He hasn't missed a practice, a play. Here's a young man that's really hungry, that wants to play, and I've been really impressed with what he's done so far. So I think both those two guys have really impressed me in camp, and then for it to show up in the game is not a surprise. But I would expect, hopefully with the offensive line that we have right now and the way those guys are run blocking, hopefully we can feel like the running game can be part of our offense this year, where in the past we have been much more of a throw-first football team, run in highlighted areas, where right now I thought with the way we pass pro'd, it's a good thing we ran the ball the way we did and made the holes we did, because it could have been a long day. We would not have had the same results at South Alabama.
Last time you've had a team, your defense hold a team under 100 yards passing when it wasn't a service academy?
Oh, I don't know. That'd be a stat. That'd be a stat to look up, but there hasn't been very many of them. And when you look at the culture of today's football, there aren't many people that can't throw the ball in some way, form, or fashion, whether that is even an option football team with all the play action. When you looked at their receivers, they're 6'4", they're 6'5", they were big, pretty athletic, could run down the field, and every game they take their jump ball shots, and they normally make them. Very athletic receivers, and so that was the challenge that we gave to our corners and to our safeties, but it also goes with the pressure that was applied up front. But it's been a long time since we have not given up 100 yards, and I think it's a real testament passing. It's a real testament to those guys in the second level, because I don't know how many teams around the country threw for under 100 yards this first weekend.
Coach, Daniel Lewis's first game with you guys, just assess how he was able to join the defensive fold and really fit in that group.
Daniel Lewis came in here as a captain transfer from Hawaii, as a fifth-year transfer. You never know how a transfer is going to gel. Even when we brought in a Jeff Driscoll in here, you don't know how that's going to gel, how it's going to work out. Same thing when we brought in Houston Bates. But you know what? When you get around good people and you have an opportunity to talk to them on the phone and you listen to them, and then you meet them in person, you're like, this guy could be great. I mean, he's not very vocal at practice. He's not a rah-rah guy. He is a guy that leads by example. He shows up. He works every day. I think there's a tremendous amount of respect on this football team. Again, as we talked about Jeff Driscoll earning captain status, coming in year one, Daniel Lewis is one of only 12 players that was voted onto the Leadership Council, which again tells you the amount of respect that this football team has for the type of man he is, the work habits that he has, the seriousness in which he approaches the game. And I think this football team has embraced him just as he has come in and embraced this football team. It's been a great fit. And you don't really know how that's going to put together when you bring them all in here personality-wise. But Daniel Lewis has been a phenomenal fit, and I think he helps our football team and definitely is creating some depth for us in the secondary. Thank you all very much. We look forward to seeing everybody this weekend here at Joe Ice Stadium. Thank you.